In recent years, Chinese social media platforms have witnessed a peculiar visual trend among the cultural vanguard. Young curators, entertainers, and artists, figures typically associated with vitality and novelty, have begun circulating hyper-realistic portraits of themselves as elderly individuals. Prominent figures such as curator Lin Zi, entertainer Jiang Sida, and artist Li Jiaqi have utilized AI-driven aging filters to modify their likenesses, transforming into what the internet vernacular terms Laodeng. The term Laodeng, dialectally rooted in northeast China and proliferating through internet subcultures, is far from a term of endearment. Unlike the term for the elderly in Chinese, Laodeng often carries a derogatory connotation, implying an older person who is stubborn, morally questionable, or socially obsolete. Wang and Xue note that in online gender discourses, the term is frequently deployed by younger demographics, particularly women, to criticize patriarchal overreach or bad behavior by older men. Why then would young creatives voluntarily adopt a visual identity associated with decline and derogation? This phenomenon presents a unique case of posers, young creatives masking themselves to appear significantly older and potentially more cynical. This paper posits that this performative aging is a complex sociocultural strategy. It serves as a response to the structural exclusion of youth in the Chinese art world, a reaction to the linguistic pressure of the title artist, and a preemptive defense against the anxiety of authenticity. To understand the anxiety driving the Laodeng phenomenon, one must first dismantle the linguistic infrastructure of the Chinese art world. In English, the word artist is a vocational descriptor. It describes what one does. However, the Chinese equivalent describes what one is, or more accurately, the rank one has attained. As Fan explores, in the context of cross-linguistic artistic practices, the suffix "jia" implies a person of profound attainment and an established school of thought. It distinguishes the artist from the artisan or the mere worker. Historically, a jia is someone who has established a legacy. Consequently, for a 20-something art school graduate to introduce themselves as an artist creates immediate cognitive dissonance. It feels presumptuous, triggering a profound sense of imposter syndrome. This linguistic embarrassment does not exist in the same way in Western contexts. A young British artist is a celebrated category. The youthfulness is an asset. In China, however, the linguistic gap creates a legitimacy vacuum. Young practitioners often resort to humbler titles like creator or art worker to avoid the weight of the jia. The Laodeng filter, therefore, functions as a visual shortcut to the legitimacy that the language denies them. By digitally aging themselves, they align their physical appearance with the gravity of the title they aspire to hold, highlighting the absurdity of a system that requires one to be old to be considered a master. The appropriation of the elderly image is deeply rooted in the cognitive framework that equates oldness with authority. In the general cognition of the Chinese cultural sphere, age is not merely a biological state but a resource. It implies that a person has been tempered by time, possessing knowledge, connections, and a moral standing that accumulate over the years. Respecting the elderly is a cornerstone of Confucian ethics and remains deeply ingrained in social conduct. Shen points out the persistence of moral disciplines such as if you want to be good, ask the three elders. In the art world, this translates into a hierarchy in which exhibitions, funding, and academic positions are often gatekept by the senior generation. The old artist is a figure of unassailable success. For the young artist, this creates a formidable barrier. Their creativity is often dismissed as immature until it is validated by the older generation. Research comparing older and younger visual artists indicates that while creative processes are similar, older artists are perceived as more mature and experienced, according to Ardold and Orwell. This perception creates a market reality where collectors and institutions favor the proven longevity of older artists over the volatile potential of the young. The Laodeng performance satirizes this dynamic. By donning the digital skin of the elderly, young artists are essentially saying, if you only respect the face of age, here it is. It is a critique of the superficiality of a system that values seniority over innovation. Beyond the critique of external authority, the Laodan trend serves a crucial internal psychological function: self protection. Simulacra Gallery owner Jiaqi has discussed the fear of being passively Laodengized. This refers to the inevitable slide into obsolescence, irrelevance, or the becoming of the greasy older generation that young people currently mock. By proactively turning themselves into Laodeng via AI, artists engage in a form of defensive pessimism. If I mock myself first, you cannot hurt me. If I present myself as a useless old geezer now, I am immune to the criticism of being an aspiring, pretentious master. Lee suggests that artists use this strategy to interfere with reality and the public's perception. It is a tactic of managing the anxiety of authenticity. In an era where authenticity is constantly questioned, is this art? Is this person a real artist? The Loudon persona offers a shield of irony. It allows the artist to step out of the high pressure role of the young genius and hide behind the mask of a cynical, weathered elder. The term Laodeng has specific gendered implications. Wang and Xue note its use by female demographics to challenge male dominated narratives. When female artists adopt the Laodeng filter, they are doubly subverting the gaze. They are rejecting the requirement for young female artists to be aesthetic objects or muses, instead presenting themselves as grotesque, powerful, or withered, thereby reclaiming agency over their visual representation in a digital space. The prevalence of the Laodeng phenomenon signals a structural health issue in the art ecology. If young artists feel the need to age themselves to feel legitimate, the system requires adjustment. We propose two primary pathways for normalization. The first solution is to normalize the public perception of who an artist can be. The artist should not be an alienated, purely elite group reserved for the elderly masters. Drawing on Gude, we must advocate for public aesthetic education that breaks free from traditional molds. Art education should not just be about technical proficiency, which takes decades to master, but about making meaning. If the definition of art shifts from technical mastery to innovative meaning making, the pressure to be a Jia lessens. Furthermore, as Zhang discussed regarding identity, it is necessary for artists to speak from the perspective of the general public rather than from the ivory tower. By demystifying the artist's role, the gap between the young worker and the old master narrows. Secondly, the academic and critical community must help artists face their youth squarely, validating it as a distinct and valuable phase of production, rather than a waiting room for old age. Gallinson's seminal work on the economics of creativity distinguishes between old masters and young geniuses. The Chinese art system heavily favors the narrative of the old master. However, acknowledging that innovation often comes from the young genius who breaks rules before they learn them is vital. Institutions should create specific legitimizing structures for youth grants, criticism, and exhibitions that value rupture and newness as much as continuity and mastery. The Laodeng artist is a digital specter haunting the contemporary Chinese art scene. It is a funny, meme worthy image, but it casts a long shadow over the psyche of a generation. It reveals a deep seated anxiety that in the current cultural framework, youth is a liability and legitimacy is a function of decay. We wish to convey the expectation for young people expressed by artist and printmaker Ayana Moore. I would like young artists to trust their own voice more and not look for their work to be praised by their elders as much. The goal is not to disrespect the old masters, but to allow the young geniuses to exist without wearing a digital mask. When a young artist can introduce themselves as a Ishuja without flinching and without needing an AI filter to add wrinkles to their face, we will know that the anxiety of legitimacy has finally been resolved.